tall, troubled, traveling in spite of. So I am 6'2", and I wanted to do this because before I took this trip, I searched all over the interwebs and I didn't find exactly what I was looking for on it. So, again, FYI, I am 6'2", and that's relevant because my height, I was able to sit comfortably on the plane. I think when it comes to the long haul flights, because I went from the United States ultimately to Kenya, I went from Cleveland to Philly to Doha to Kenya, Nairobi. And for the long haul parts of the flight, it was actually two, three rows. And on those 3-row planes, uh, three sets of rows. Three sets of going back columns, I guess, whatever. But on those larger planes, it seems the leg room tends to be much larger because I was particularly concerned because I got a relatively less expensive flight. I was economy all the way. Yes. Yes. Woohoo, economy. And I was like, oh, what if it's going to be like the flying economy on domestic flights and stuff like that? And you're all kind of crunched in, but it's not too long, so you can kind of be okay. But I don't know if I can take that for 12 hours. And ultimately, no, those larger planes have larger leg room, which is a very good thing. And as far as the troubled part of this, tall, troubled, traveling. I remember one of my former coworkers. She was a not, well, she's a woman in her 70s, right? And I remember in a meeting, she was talking about her daughter and, of course, going to travel to see the grandkids and all of that stuff. And she's like, and I had to tell my daughter recently, I don't know if I can keep making these long walks through these airports. So I might have to slow down and stop my traveling to see my grandkids. And I was very happy that I was able to share with her, and I'm sharing with all of you, that airports, and it's not just American airports. I think, yeah, because my love talks to me about that. He's like, any international airport that's on an international level, of course, they're all going to have that. In my experience with my two international airports, again, Doha and Nairobi, they had it. And they actually have wheelchair service that will pick you up in a wheelchair. I take my walker with me, etc. And they pick you up in the wheelchair and carry you wherever you need to go, quite frankly, which is actually really cool. And they stay with you through check in and what is it called when you put your items on the carousel, not the carousel, but put your items to go under the plane. Don't get me started on that. But they go with you through all of that, and they actually handle giving your items to the ticketing agent, and they put it on track to go back onto the plane and all of that stuff. It's actually really cool. So that way, people like herself and myself, we're walking, hence the term troubled. Walking after a certain distance can become quite troubling for me. And that's not what this video is about. But it is quite helpful that they have that. And depending on the size of the airport, because Doha is a huge, humongous airport. Not only do they have the availability of the people to push you in the walkers, not push you in the wheelchairs, they also have people driving those little multi-seater carts that drive around the airport, and they actually did that with me in Doha. Well, the person in the wheelchair pushed me to that, and he was, I'm homosexual, right? Okay, so yes. Anyway, but because Doha is such a huge airport, that's why they have so many people doing such things. And in Doha, the man took me to the that cart, and he was like, okay, this airport. Also, FYI, and this is another thing about international airports, I was really concerned about traveling internationally because I was like, oh, I, I just speak English. I kind of speak a little bit of Spanish and a little bit less Swahili, but oh my gosh, like, are people gonna? And I even this is why sometimes Google is not the anyway. I googled the official language in Doha, and it was like, yeah, the official language in Doha, like, is some, and forgive me, Dohaians, but it it's an Arabic language, I think. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even begin to know that language. Is it going to be a situation that I have to sort of say, hi, I'd like this thing, and somebody look at me behind a desk like, I don't know, what, I guess you're speaking English, and I'm saying, but it would be in their native language. I guess you're speaking English, so I guess that means I need to get an English translator for you and go through all of that. But no, everybody there spoke English. And my boyfriend, yes, and we've consummated us. Yes, we have, in person. Anyway, he explained, he's like, international airports, English is a very big international language. So you might notice people will have a little bit of an accent. And I think this is a good thing about me, particularly with my time living in DC. Like, there are some people who get upset when they hear someone talk with an accent, but that was never me, you know? And yeah, people all over will speak with an accent, but they're speaking in English, and they're speaking fluently in English and clearly in English all over in all of my airports. Oh my gosh, I have so much stuff I wanted to get to. How many minutes? Okay, I think I'm doing okay. But yeah, also, as far as the planes, not only do they have the person to push you around on the wheelchair, but I was like, okay, I know sometimes they bring people from outside to come into the plane and push you to your chair in a wheelchair to your chair on the plane. But because again, I flew economy all the way, yes. I noticed my very far economy seat at the very back of the plane was very far from the more pristine, um, handicap accessible bathroom at the very front of the plane for not for first class, but it's very accessible for the people in first class, and it's quite a distance for those of us who flew economy. So what they do have on those bigger planes, particularly for long haul flights, is they actually have a collapsible cabin chair, is what it's called. That you're able to move from your chair, get on the cabin chair, and then they push you to the restroom if you need it. I and this is also a thing. The bathrooms, even if it's not like wheelchair accessible, because the wheelchair accessible bathroom, which is much bigger, is the one that was in the first class area. But every bathroom on the plane, I believe, the children of the anyway, let me stop. I believe every bathroom on the plane has those grab bars that you can grab onto. So even if it's not a wheelchair accessible bathroom, it has the little grab bar if you don't need to use the wheelchair all the way into the bathroom. But again, they do have what's called a cabin share on the long haul flights on the planes that can take you into the restroom if you need that kind of thing. Oh, yeah. And they will push you into the restroom and help you and all of that to say being this or differently abled should not prevent you from like the my former coworker seeing your grandkids should not prevent you from getting out there and exploring the world, or like me should not prevent you from seeing your future husband, fiance. I'm gonna make stuff like that in a separate video, but yeah. So all of that's really cool. I also wanted to say, as far as in so much as when it comes to traveling, make sure that you get your travel vaccinations. I think that's not only a requirement for the country you're leaving, but a requirement for the country you're visiting as well, because they might be like, okay, yeah, you don't want to catch malaria, but we also don't want you to bring stuff to our country. So just make sure you have that clean bill of health and all of that. Also, as far as wheelchair access, getting through customs, I know it takes us, getting through customs is such a downer. Like the customs line was insanely long. I was like, oh my gosh, this looks crazy, you guys. And being that I was in a wheelchair, they just pushed me right up to the front and like, okay, hey. And the guy asked me my questions at customs in Kenya. He was like, and that was really interesting. I was really preparing for the worst because, always expect the worst, hope for the best or something like that. And the guy in the wheelchair just pushed me up to the front of the line. I am sorry, people. I know. And the Kenyan, I forget what it's called. Not counselor, not consummate. The Kenyan customs agent was like, okay, why are you coming to Kenya? And I was like, it's my first time ever leaving the United States. I wanted to see what the world was like. And he was like, okay, come in. And I was like, oh my gosh. Well, actually, it wasn't that easy, quite, because I had to get it's called an ETA, but it stands for electronic travel something, but it's basically a travel visa, tourist visa. And I had to present that to him. Unfortunately, it was all on my phone. So I was just like, here's my phone, sir. And he took a shot of the QR code and was like, okay, you're good to go. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kenya is absolutely marvelous. And it is more marvelous when you're with the man that you love. Okay, somebody else in a video, he was like, people just ramble on and on. I'll make I'll make more a separate video. Anyway, so yeah, that's that. Get your vaccines. Yes, and my love took care of me. Talk to you later, social media family. Peace. #VerseTV.com. Stay blessed.